Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
What do you want? You.
Frigid February continues, and it truly is frigid. It's sloppy, it's snowy, it's wet, it's raining. I heard the forecast called for possible sky diarrhea to fall on us tomorrow. At this point, Thursday coming up is going to be another shitty day. So we picked a good February to have Frigid February on.
Yeah. Especially this particular frigid movie.
This is a movie about men being depressed in the snow, scared for their lives, trying to find solace in each other and not get eaten by wolves. That's right. This week we're talking about The Grey.
Well, I have a microphone and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say!
My name is John.
My name is Lloyd.
Lloyd has a neck issue today, and they doped him up pretty good, so he warned me beforehand if he's a little groggier than normal. That's just all the opioids in the system.
All the dope I'm on right now.
All the dope. What is it? Your L5 is wrenching up. What's going on?
Fuck. Everything's seized up. I don't know. All the muscles seized up in my neck. I woke up early this morning in massive pain. I couldn't even hold my head up in any configuration. I just wanted to chop my head off. That seemed like the best solution.
You showed me your range of motion with your head earlier, and it's like Michael Keaton, Batman '89.
Yeah,
like just slightly one side to the other. I won't even ask you to try to look up because I'm assuming I would just hear a crack and you'd die.
Yeah, that's what I have to work on. Actually, I have to get that curvature back in my neck.
All right, maybe I'll come over later this week and put my fist directly in the back of your neck and then pull on your jaw. We'll figure it out. We don't need the scientists or the doctors.
We'll get it done.
Yeah, we'll just get it done. And if I hear a crack and you suddenly expire, I'm just going to leave for, I don't know, Mexico or where. Does Mexico have an extradition treaty with the U.S.? I just don't want to be brought back to be tried for your murder.
Right. No, I'll write a note beforehand.
Thank you. Yeah, John was trying to help before he killed me.
Right. We were trying this out on my own cognizance.
Excellent. All right. Excellent. I'll get off for sure. All right. So The Grey came out on January 27th of 2012. It was directed and co-written by Joe Carnahan. Joe Carnahan wrote and directed Smokin' Aces.
I like that movie.
I do too. He wrote and directed one from a few years ago during the pandemic that I absolutely loved, Boss Level.
Oh, God, another great one.
Yeah, Boss Level and Narc with Jason Patric and Ray Liotta. That was his first feature film, I believe. He was also at one point supposed to have directed and I think written Mission Impossible 3, and then he ended up leaving the production and J.J. Abrams took over, but he was the initial guy who was tapped to do that. So he's made some cool movies. He's also he's had a history with his star here, Liam Neeson, because the year before this, they made The A-Team together.
Oh, right.
So they
another good movie.
Another fun movie. Joe Carnahan's got a pretty good track record for everything I could think of. His co-writer was a guy named Ian Mackenzie Jeffers. He has the most British name ever. Ian Mackenzie Jeffers. He might be an American guy. I don't know. He co-wrote the screenplay based on his short story. And then the only other thing I could find on him was he wrote the screenplay for the 2007 Kevin Bacon vehicle, Death Sentence. Death Sentence was a movie that was based on the novel called Death Sentence also, that Charles Bronson's Death Wish was made from. So it's kind of like it wasn't a Death Wish remake. It was supposed to be closer to the original novel.
Okay.
So
that's
you get a little bit of that there. This movie was filmed between January and March of 2011, and it was filmed in Smithers and Vancouver and Smithers, British Columbia, Canada. Joe Carnahan wanted the film to be set in the Yukon in Canada, but the producers of the movie said that they wanted it to be set in Alaska so American audiences could accept it more readily. That's so fucking stupid.
That's ridiculous.
He argued with them about it, and they said they said you have to do it in Alaska. So for all intents and purposes, it's just in a Arctic, I guess, region, but it's supposed to be Alaska, and it was filmed in Canada. So, but yeah, I just think that's funny. American audiences are going to revolt.
Yeah, we'll revolt. Yeah.
I think what would be a great
I think
book,
maybe Trump would revolt.
Alaska's the greatest snowy place, the best snowy place. It's ours. Canada, 51st state, snowy, but not as good.
We are going to rename Canada America.
America 2, the return.
America 2.
TOO. All right, Manster, why don't we talk about the cast of this snowy, wolfy film?
My God, it's full of stars.
Wow, John just disappeared. Damn. Looks like it's just me and you guys now.
Hold on. So I'm going to show you something real quick. I'm going to leave this in. Do you know about when mice have that button on the side there?
Yeah, I got like 4 of those buttons.
That button on the side, I have one of those at work as well, is the dumbest fucking button of all time, because the way you hold a mouse, your finger tends to go, my thumb tends to go on that side. Now, podcasting, it's never happened before. That was the first time. At work, I accidentally back out of things constantly to the point where I literally, I'm one of those people that like, I could put up with something for long enough until I just destroy something.
Yeah.
And I haven't smashed the mouse at work yet, but I've come very close. And this one almost suffered that.
I actually, I like that back button feature on the mouse.
Oh, I hate it. Well, okay.
I think your thumb is 3 times the width of mine, probably.
Okay, I have a big thumb, and I'm not saying that the back feature on the mouse is a bad idea. It's just, for me, where the one on this and the one at my work is placed, it is just so, I don't know if you can see that. It's just crazy. It's right where my thumb hovers on the edge. So, okay, so I'm not going to delete any of that because that was fun, but let's get into the cast.
All right, so it starts off, we got Liam Neeson as Otway. We learn his first name later, John.
Did you say Lisa Neeson?
Did I? I probably did.
I think the drugs made you say Lisa Neeson.
It's actually Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Initially, it was Bradley Cooper in that role.
Also from the A-Team.
Also from the A-Team, that's right. And I know I did a little reading that Carnahan, get this, urged Neeson to channel his grief over the recent death of his wife, Natasha Richardson.
Yeah, which was only a couple years before this was made. Yeah.
Skiing, right? She didn't have a helmet on, if I remember right.
Yeah, she hit a tree or something.
Oh,
and that's terrible.
That's horrible. Liam Neeson, the big Irishman. You'll remember him as Oscar Schindler in Schindler's List. Rob Roy, Michael Collins. Damn, he does a lot of first name, last name movies.
He does.
Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace, and like you said, the A-Team. Then we have Frank Grillo, almost unrecognizable to me.
I think you just called him Frank.
Frank.
Okay, I'm hearing stuff, or you're a little dopey. Yeah,
I think I'm dopey.
It sounded like you said Frank Grillo. I'm excited for all these names.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. Some good fodder on this one. As John Diaz, Frank Grillo, the incomparable beefcake Frank Grillo. Love him in a lot of stuff. Raised in the Bronx as a wrestler and a boxer, and learned jiu-jitsu. Studied dentistry at NYU and became a dentist before acting.
Really?
No, not really. I just made it up just now. Prison Break, one of our favorites. Minority Report. I believe he was one of the cops, right?
He was one of the cops, yes.
Warrior, another one we both like. The Purge movies. Boss Level.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff. Then Dermot Mulrooney as Jerome Talgett, not Dylan McDermott.
Yes, no, it's
Right.
this is Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah. He is the guy that dies when he falls through the trees, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to remember who the characters were. You know, he's a classically trained cellist.
Yes, he
And
actually.
he's played on like 20 or 30 soundtrack albums.
Yep.
Oh,
I just learned that recently.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Lots of TVs in the 80s, TV shows. Young Guns, Point of No Return, Copycat, My Best Friend's Wedding, stuff like that. Then we have Dallas Roberts as Pete Henrik. He's that nice guy, the respectful, conscientious guy.
Yeah.
He played the governor in He played the scientist for the governor, Milton, on the Walking Dead TV show. Season 3, I believe it was. Lots of crime TV shows. He did that movie Walk the Line, which is a really good movie. Dallas Buyers Club and Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. I know you don't like the Knives Out.
I didn't like Knives Out. I didn't see Glass Onion, but I didn't like Knives Out.
It was all right.
He was Jeffrey Dahmer's dad in My Friend Dahmer.
My Friend Dahmer. Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah.
That's right. He was that guy. Totally forgot that. Joe Anderson as Todd Flannery. Flannery is the annoying, talkative guy who sits next to Otway on the plane.
The guy who curses the plane to crash. Yeah.
Yeah, right. He talks about, if the plane crashes, don't put your head between your legs.
Yeah. Yeah. The guy that, like, you don't want around you, even if you're not superstitious, you don't want to, like, test the waters. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was flying last year. And at the time, I had downloaded some movies on my tablet to watch. And one of them was the movie Alive.
Oh, come on.
And I'm fucking on a plane. I didn't even realize it. I put it on, and it's the whole plane crash scene, and I just turned it off. I'm like,
good.
I can't be playing this. Yeah, so Joe Anderson, I'll mention this, probably no one listening has seen or heard of this movie, but a movie called Control, and it was a movie about Joy Division, and he played the bassist Peter Hook in that movie. Also, he was in The Ruins, book that I read, I really loved, and he was pretty decent.
Yep.
The Crazies, in another book, another movie based on a book by Joe Hill called Horns.
Oh,
Joe
I've
Hill
never seen
being
that.
Stephen King's son.
Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, that's the one. Then you have Nonso and Nosy as Jackson Burke. He's the black guy that dies in the movie. Yeah. Severe overnight death there. He was in that Sweet Tooth, Jeff Lemire movie on show on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah, also played in Conan the Barbarian, the one with Jason Momoa.
Heather recognized him and said he was from Game of Thrones. And
yeah,
I watched Game of Thrones, but
too.
So long ago I don't remember.
And then he was in Ted Lasso a little bit.
Oh shit, he is one of the fans in the pub, I think. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Okay. All right.
And then I'm going to say this name, although I did not see him in the movie, Greg Nicotero.
Same. I was trying to figure out who he was. I'm assuming he's one of the guys that, like, one of the roughnecks that just dies pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's what I think too. And then we see her in some scenes, but Anne Openshaw, the only female in the movie, plays Otway's wife, Anna.
Yes. Yeah. There's a couple women in the first scene when they're in that rec center or whatever, but that's really it. No speaking roles.
She looked familiar to me, but the only thing that I even recognized was a movie called American Mary, which I've never seen, but we've talked about before.
She just looked like Pretty Brunette, so that's probably where you know her from. Is she's like casting
maybe.
Pretty Brunette? Yeah,
yeah, and that's what we got for this.
All right, so John Otway, right? It's Otway.
Otway
is a sniper who works for an oil company in Alaska. His job is to keep the workers safe by killing wolves, or I guess anything that might pose a danger in nature to them. His character has a opening dialogue, a monologue, voiceover, where he's just kind of talking, it's kind of just a lot of talk about, like, being out here alone and, like, what his job is. And, you could tell he's a very sullen guy.
Very sullen, moody. It's like introspective, philosophical. He's trying to find some deeper meaning, I think.
Right. And it's clear even though they don't tell you this until, and they never tell you technically, but even though you find out at the end, it's clear that he has lost his wife in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
He keeps on having kind of like these waking and sleeping dreams about being in bed with her. She keeps telling him not to be afraid, and you don't know what that means. And, you know, it's used to good effect a couple times, especially during the plane crash. During the plane crash, right. He's having a dream about her, and they're under they're on the bed, but this time they're under a cover, and she gets sucked away from him, and it kind of opens up to him being, you know, crashed in the plane. We'll get to that. He's very introspective. We see a scene of him killing a wolf and saving, you know, one of the workers from a possible wolf attack. And he's not like this macho guy. He goes out and he kneels by the wolf and puts his hand on its belly while it's dying. And he has a job to do, but he's not an animal himself.
Yeah.
We see him. He goes to the rec center. Lloyd, the rec center is like Mos Eisley, right?
Yes, that's like even worse.
Yeah.
You just walk in the rec center, and I love the lead up to that where you just walk in, he's walking down the road. It's very dark, you know, it's Alaska, and you've got this swirling wind and snow and misty lights. I know it's just a really nice aesthetic. And
yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, as soon as you walk in there, it's just dudes punching each other and slamming each other's heads down. And I think you see Frank Grillo's character at one point.
There's a big fight happening in the middle of this and it's the kind of place where, you know, yes, people are getting involved in the fight, but other people are just drinking their drinks and eating their food and sitting at the bar. This shows us these are oil men. These are rough guys. This is the kind of thing where this happens all the time. So not everybody gets involved or people don't leave. And we see a big fight. And I don't think I realized it when I saw it until the end when they did the flashback that was Frank Grillo, who was like in the middle of the fight, like kind of starting everything. So yeah, he goes in, he sits down, he has a couple drinks. He has a piece of paper, Lloyd. What's with the piece of paper he keeps on going to?
Yeah, he just keeps reading. It's a note he wrote. Is that right?
It looks like I think it's a note he wrote.
Yeah.
And they never really get into it. It's just he keeps referring to it throughout the movie.
Yep. And I'm assuming it's a note he wrote when his wife was dying. He also has a father issue that I guess we'll get into.
Yeah. And then he goes out after he has his drinks, and he does as people unfortunately do sometimes, and he puts his own gun into his mouth. And he kind of stands there, and, you know, he's got the barrel of the gun in his mouth, this rifle, and he's about to take care of himself, and he decides not to. And then we move forward to what appears to be the next day, and it seems like their shift, or whatever you might want to call it, their time there is over, and they're going home. So a bunch of them are getting on a plane that's going to be taking them, I think, to Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is probably like a regular thing, like a shift change. Like these guys live out there for a few months, come home, go back out for a few months. So they're all getting together. And when they're on the plane, it's just a bunch of guys on a plane. He sits down. He wants to take a nap. You know, you see Dermot Mulroney's character, same thing, kind of just taking a nap. They're getting ready to get up and get in the sky. And the character, the Flannery sits down next to Neeson, and he is just awful from the beginning, right?
He's bumping his head, reaching over, you know, the overhead bins, and he's totally annoying from the start.
And Neeson's character, Otway, does something that we all want to do, but he actually doesn't. What does he tell him, Lloyd?
He says, look, I'm sure, you know, you have a lot of things to talk about. I don't want to hear any of it. I'm just going to put my head back and close my eyes and not talk to you.
Yeah, he's not dismissive. He's just nice about it. Yeah. But he's like, I don't want to talk to you. I just want to get through this flight, and I want to get back to Anchorage, and that's it. You know, this guy clearly is the type of guy that does this everywhere. So we get a little bit in the flight, and, you know, they're heading back, but they start to hit some chop. They start to hit some...
Pretty soon, yeah.
Pretty quickly.
Flannery guy, he gets up. He's like, all right, I'll just go sit somewhere else. And then he starts spewing all his stupid... you know, things you don't say in a plane.
Yeah. Don't put your head between your knees, like Lloyd mentioned earlier. That's bullshit. And everybody on the plane, all these other guys are like, shut the fuck up. Even, again, like I said earlier, if you're not superstitious, you still don't want to push the button or fuck around and find out. So they're all like, shut the fuck up. And, you know, they get through some chop. And at one point, one of the characters sees like the wing looks like it's moving, but another character's like, I worked in engineering. That it's designed to do that. Don't worry about it. Until all of a sudden, Lloyd, what happens?
I don't remember what started it, but is there like little fire? There's some kind of electrical thing up front.
Yeah, massive bump. They hit a massive bump.
Yeah, it looks like the tail comes off or something like that, or breaks in half, and people are sucked out from the back. And I love what Neeson does. Like his character immediately takes his seatbelt, cinches it as hard as he can, lays over, grabs every fucking seatbelt he can find, and straps himself in.
He straps himself in with 3 seatbelts across his entire body, which he wouldn't have been able to do if the other kid didn't get up, and leave him. Yeah. Tail seems to be open. It's actually a really well shot plane crash scene because it's all done in like really tight shots, and you don't really see what's happening to the plane. You just see chaos.
And the scene where you see Liam Neeson laying down on his seat, and underneath him, you can literally see the trees going by, like the snowy trees right under his head. It's a pretty awesome shot.
Yeah, it's very good. And then, we get the passengers freaking out. And then all of a sudden we get that dream shot again of him and his wife laying under the covers. And then she's sucked away and he just wakes up in the middle of a field in the snow.
Right. By himself.
By himself. He's not in those seats anymore. So he got thrown out of those seats. He's just laying on the ground. And he gets up and he sees nothing. It seems like he's kind of alone until he walks up and kind of heads over a little bit and comes upon this giant fucking wreckage of this plane. Wing is off, I think. Tail end is missing.
Yeah,
and
it's in pieces. There's nothing recognizable.
There are people everywhere freaking out. And there are bodies everywhere.
Yeah.
So they start to go around and kind of like try to gather up survivors. I don't know if they said how many people were on the plane, but I think they figure there's like 8 survivors.
Yeah, I wrote them down. So you got Otway, Diaz, Talgett, Pete Henrik, Flannery, Jackson Burke, and Dwayne Hernandez.
All right, those are the 7 that live, but there's an 8th that dies.
Right? The dude in the plane. Oh, yeah.
That
was a rough scene.
That's a rough scene, and that's also a weird scene because that guy is actually a pretty well-known actor. That is, I'll think of his name in a second. But he's been in quite a few things, and he has what is tantamount to like an incredibly small role or a cameo, I guess. I can't think of his name right now, but he's one of the state troopers in The Departed at the end. I don't want to spoil The Departed, but he's one of the state troopers at the end in the ending scene. He's in that movie. He was in 24. So he just has this one little part, but it's kind of an important part because he is just extremely jacked up. He's bleeding from it looks like his stomach.
Yeah, his stomach is spurting. He's like, there's something wrong. I can tell there's something wrong with me.
Yeah. It's a sad scene because they're all kind of around him, and Liam Neeson's character immediately kind of becomes, for lack of a better term for this movie, the alpha of the group, where he's kind of like not thrust into charge, but he's the one who steps forward.
Right. He's the only one capable of it.
Right. And he tells him straight up, he tells him something that nobody would ever want to have to say to somebody. He's like, you're dying. But
he's like explaining it. He's like, yeah, you're dying. It's going to wash over. It's going to slide over you. It's going to feel warm. You accept it. I think the way he treats it and the way he makes that guy feel not comfortable, but just accepting of it was a really powerful scene.
Yeah, it's really good. Actor's name, I just thought of it, is James Badge Dale.
That's right.
Been in a bunch of stuff. So it's weird that he's just in this one scene. But so he walks him through it and he dies. And all the rest of the guys are kind of like really freaked out about this. But, they have to move on. So they decide to start kind of foraging and gathering supplies. But the Diaz character right off the bat, Manster, Frank Grillo, what's his deal?
He's a prick. He's just a prick. That's his deal at this point. He wants everyone to think how tough he is and how great and cool he is, and that everyone else is, stupid. Yeah, that's his deal.
He's the one that tries to take the wallet, right? The
initial, trying to steal someone's wallet.
He goes for a wallet, and Otway tells him, put the wallet back. And he's like, well, what the fuck are you going to do about it? And he tells him, Liam Neeson, I would be afraid of Liam Neeson. He's a big dude. I think in real life he was a boxer at one point.
Yep.
He's like, you can take the wallet, but I'm going to lay you out right here. And you're gonna be on the ground wishing you hadn't done that. You know,
Yeah, you're gonna be swallowing your own blood.
Yeah, you're gonna be swallowing your own blood. And he, even though Diaz acts like a tough guy, he acquiesces and puts the wallet back down.
Yeah.
So they decide that they're gonna try to do the best they can to make this into a makeshift type of base where they could try to survive out until rescue comes. The Diaz character also finds on somebody like a GPS watch.
Yeah, I guess that's what it was. It had a big wire coming out of it.
Yeah, and apparently it had a beacon, and he's like, I know about these things, that they can triangulate this. And so they decide that that's what they're going to do, and they decide, at one point, Neeson decides, let's grab all of the wallets from everybody that's dead so that we can, when we get to safety or get rescued, we can, give them back to the folks,
right.
Because they made
that's
it very
when they
clear.
decide that they have to leave, right? Yeah.
Well, the wolves come first.
Yeah,
right?
the wolves come first. Yeah.
It's the first night, and I think they hear some howling earlier on, and one of them gets attacked and killed.
That's the scene. Remember, they go out and they see one set of eyes.
Yes.
In the darkness, and then all of a sudden, there's like a dozen sets of eyes all around.
Yeah, these like shining eyes.
Yeah.
Looking at them, and Neeson, who obviously has dealt with these things before, is like, well, they're pack hunters. They know we're here. We're not supposed to be here. This is their territory. Their den is probably very close. He gives some radiuses. He's like,
he gives 300 meters or
300
30,
miles.
300 miles, 30 meters. Yeah.
Yeah. 300 miles for their area that they'll roam in, but 30 miles in the center is where they'll hunt, I guess.
Okay. Yeah.
Or live and hunt and then go out of that. So in the middle of the night, they come and they kill one of the guys. Hernandez gets like basically eaten alive. So everybody is now freaked out by this. And after they stay there for a while longer, and they don't really ever talk a lot about food or rations in this movie, but you know that they don't have a ton. The Neeson character sees like this line of trees not too far from where they are. And he says, if we can get to that line of trees, the wolves might not follow us there. If we sit here, we're an easy target. Now, the one complaint I read about this movie online, apparently a lot of survivalists are like, we're not going to say it's the movie's fault. We're going to say the character just maybe wasn't a survivalist, because they're saying that was the dumbest thing to ever have done. And some people, some fans of the movie, have the idea that the Neeson character was on like a suicide mission. Like he knew what he was doing by going away from the fuselage. But then other people say, well, he wouldn't lead these guys to their deaths. I don't think he would either.
No, I think so.
I think it's a case of a character, you or me, we're there. We're not survivalists. Maybe we would think the same thing. Like, well, if we stay at the plane, they're going to keep coming. So let's try to go out into the wilderness and see how it's going to go. Now, what the survivalists all said was the smartest thing to do would have been to work on completely sealing that plane off and just living inside of it until something came to save them. But so they decide they're going to start moving out towards the tree line, and they start moving out towards the tree line. And this is a great scene, Manster, because someone else gets taken out, right?
Yeah. So as they're going to the tree line, which I don't know, I didn't really see the trees when he said the tree line, but it's got to be pretty far. I mean, that had to be at least a mile or a few miles away.
Knee-high snow.
Yeah, knee-high snow. That's brutal. So Flannery starts falling behind for whatever reason, and he makes a little comment, oh, you guys, you're not waiting for me, and then all of a sudden he sees the wolves. So he gets torn apart by like maybe 3 wolves.
All the wolf attack scenes in this movie are awesome. I don't know. I think the wolves are fully CGI in this, but they look good. The scenes where they show up or approach are really well done.
Yeah.
Like the scene you mentioned where like the 12 eyes or whatever pop out. There's a scene coming up where there's a conflict between the humans and the wolves, and something happens where they all start howling, and you can see the breath. You can see the breath coming out of their mouths from like below a hill. Yep. All really good. So they kill him. They kill Flannery, and so they
do run back and try to save him, but they're just too late.
Yeah. Yep. They get back. They can't. So they take his wallet and they move along. Meanwhile, what's the big black guy's name?
Burke.
Burke is just not doing well at all. Like Burke is clearly
he's developed a cough and he's not doing good.
Yeah, one of the guys, I think one of the guys is like he has hypoxia probably, like he's starting to like his oxygen is fucked up. He's not breathing correctly. He's everything's going bad with him. So they get chased by the wolves again to the point where they end up on this like little cliff area. Not a cliff, a hill. They go down to the bottom of the hill and the wolves stay at the top.
That seems a little weird to me that wolves wouldn't just chase him down all the way.
It does to me too. And I tried to, as I watched the movie, this is the second time I've seen this movie, I just said to myself, maybe there's something I don't know. They do make it a point to build fires really quickly around them, almost like from The Devil Rides Out with the with the circle of protection. They build some fires around them, and the wolves just kind of stop at the top of the hill. But at the bottom of the hill, we have a fight that starts to brew between our human characters because Diaz is just still being a fucking dickhead. And they kind of sit around and they're telling each other stories. Diaz, I think, is an ex-con that, just got out of jail not too long before they came out here. The Dermot Mulroney character has a daughter, and they make a reference to the fact that, like, the only thing his ex-wife will let him, 100% still do is cut her hair.
Cutting of the hair.
The cutting of the hair. And we learn a little bit about Liam Neeson's character and the poem, Manster, the poem. Like, what is this whole bit about his dad in the poem?
So his dad was a rough character, right? So when Liam Neeson's, when Otway was a little boy, he had some memories of all the things that his father would have on the wall. One of them being a poem that he said his father wrote. And the poem is, "Once more into the fray, into the last good fight I'll ever know. Live and die on this day. Live and die on this day."
And he repeats that to himself in voiceover a few times throughout the movie.
And I don't know if you're familiar with the Dylan Thomas poem. What was that? Oh, yeah. "Do not go gentle into that good night."
Yeah.
I had to learn this poem way back when. Anyway, by Dylan Thomas in 1951. And this poem that Otway's father wrote is very indicative. It pretty much takes inspiration from that poem. And you might know the last two lines of that poem is pretty famous. "Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light."
Yeah, okay. I totally know that. I'm not a poetry person, so I don't know it. It's not like, hey, do you know Kajagoogoo Too Shy? Yeah, I know that one. I know that. I know it's Kajagoogoo 1983. But yeah, okay, that one I definitely know. Yeah, so they're kind of sitting around telling each other stories. And then there comes a point where it gets contentious between Diaz and everybody.
Because he said, he's like, "You guys, you're being a pussy, whatever." And he asked him, you're not afraid? He goes, "No, I'm not afraid."
Yeah, just admit you're afraid. It's okay. Yeah, I have no fear in my heart. And Otway's like, it's okay to say you're afraid. And that's when Diaz, kind of takes up with him, pulls a knife out on him, and, and basically says, "Let's just fucking go right now." And what happens at this point?
Otway puts him down. He steps on one of the logs in the fire, causing all the sparks to go up into Diaz's face, and then takes him down just like a rag doll.
I knew he beat him pretty immediately. I couldn't remember. Yeah, he kicks the log, and all the embers go in his face, and he just knocks him the fuck down.
Yeah.
And throws him down. And then we go back to they're just sitting there again.
That's where the wolf comes in, because he's on top of him and he backs off, and the wolf, he hears the growling behind him.
Yeah. But so he hears the growling behind him, but then they sit down.
Right.
And they sit, and this is where Diaz actually has his first human moment.
Right.
Because he starts to apologize or admit that he's afraid, and the movie does an incredibly good job of making you immediately first start to feel like, okay, we're starting to break through with this guy. And in the middle of his apology, a wolf attacks him.
Yeah.
and just starts ripping at him until they manage to get the wolf off of him. And he manages to get on top of the wolf, and he just stabs it
stabs the fuck out of it.
Stabs the fuck out of it. And the wolf's dead, and Liam Neeson says, "Good job. Now let's eat this fucking thing." And, we don't see them do it, but they prepare the body.
Yeah. And I'm sure wolf does not taste good.
Well, they make it a point to tell you it doesn't taste good. They're eating it and they're like, oh fuck, this is gross, this is bad. Body is fully skinned. The head is still hanging.
The head portion.
The head portion's still hanging. So Neeson is like, well, this wasn't the Alpha. This was an Omega. The Alpha sent the Omega down the hill to test you, right? And he even says it.
Yeah,
Not test us.
It's all about you.
It's all about you because the wolf can feel, he doesn't say it, but the wolf feels like Diaz's fucking like kind of shitty energy and knows he's like maybe vulnerable. Diaz gets pissed off at that and then takes his knife and for like, it feels like 8 minutes, saws the wolf's head off.
All the bone and gristle and everything's still attached.
And then in a very feral moment, he kind of just takes it and throws it all the way up the top of this hill. And Manster, what do we get from that?
Yeah. Yeah. So he's got this little soliloquy to the wolves. And after he throws it a moment later, you just hear all the howling of all the wolves up there. And, he just looks at it. He's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. You hear the howling, and there's a great scene from the bottom of the hill where you see the top of the hill and you see all the steam from the wolves.
Yeah.
The wolves are clearly head up, howling at the moon, and you see their breath. That's a fucking good scene.
It's such a good scene.
Yeah, that's really good. All right, so the next morning they wake up. The next
morning is when Burke is dead.
Burke is dead. Burke has already died, and now it's down to 4 of them. It's it's Otway. It is Dermot Mulroney, Diaz,
Henrik.
The 4 of them are left over. So they decide to keep journeying on, but they get to a point where there's a cliff. Like they come to a cliff.
Yep.
And they can't obviously go anywhere but down. So Manster, what is their plan to get? Now they're at a cliff, and then probably, I don't want to say feet because I don't know what it is, 100 feet. On the other side of the cliff are like giant pine trees.
Yeah.
So what is their plan?
So they have, was it a bow? Like how'd they get over there? A long rope.
They made, it wasn't rope. It looked like a bunch of things tied together.
Yeah. And they're going to hook it into the trees and then make their way across.
Yes. But one of them has to run and jump into the trees to start it.
Right. It's kind of crazy.
Which character does that?
Who does the run and jump?
The nice guy, Pete.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Taking turns going across, and Talget, he's the last one to go. And I don't know, his boot, he's got a hook or some kind of loop on his boot that catches onto something on the rope, and his leg's not moving anymore. And he's doing his best to sort of free himself, but what ends up happening is he just swings with the rope, everything loosens, and he smashes into one of those pine trees, probably 100 feet up in the air, and just falls all the way down through all the branches to the ground.
He hits the ground, and then he has like a hallucination of his daughter. He made a reference earlier about her hair, and he said that like she would wake him up by hovering her head over his face with her hair, and he sees her, and he's like, I love you, baby, and she does that, and he dies. He had a rough go of it because his hand was in like this like makeshift cast because he had hurt his hand earlier. And then the other part that like I felt in my soul was when he lost his glasses. Because,
oh God, yeah.
Because even if he made it across,
he couldn't see.
He couldn't see.
It was kind of reminiscent of Jerry O'Connell losing the comb in Stand By Me.
Yeah, but a little more important in this one.
Yeah, right.
So he hits the ground. He's dead. I think at this point they might get chased by the wolves one more time along with. Oh,
I know what it was. Yeah. So they do that, and the wolves pull Talget away. They're trying to make their way down from the tree, but they're too late.
They're trying to get to him, and Diaz jumps like the last 15 feet.
Right, and he busts his ankle up.
He busts his ankle and knee up pretty badly. But which is like character development because he cares now, and he's trying to get to Talget. But he ends up hurting himself. So Talget's body gets taken away, and it's the 3 of them now. And they're just, okay, well, let's just keep going. So they just keep walking.
Yeah.
And it's a really good scene of them walking because you can see Frank Grillo does a really good job in showing, in particular, his character is absolutely done.
Yep.
He is literally out of gas. His knee is hurt. He's been attacked by wolves multiple times, So they get to this point where they come to this giant lake and they're walking past the lake or river.
It's a very nice, serene, like vista view. And And so as they're going along, he's like, I need a break. I'm going to sit down. So he sits down on a log, and Otway's like, come on, we can't stop. You can't stop. You just got to keep moving, or else you'll never get up.
Yeah, Pete tells him, don't sit down.
Yeah.
Because he knows once you sit down, it's over. You're not going to get up. But he's like, He's
like, I'm okay with that. This is what I need. He's like looking at the mountains in the background. He goes, you see that? That's for me, right? That's what I want. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy this scene.
Until whatever happens.
Until whatever happens, yeah.
This is a really nice moment between the three of them, because it goes from them trying really hard to convince him not to probably totally understanding that they're the same way, but they're going to keep going. They know that they're going to keep walking, but at this point, they're probably not going to get saved or find anything. So we have this moment where Diaz, shakes both of their hands, and they all exchange first names, which they have not done.
Right. Yeah, that was good.
And what I liked about it was, so he says, my name's John Diaz, and Pete comes over and he shakes his hand and says, my name's Pete. And he says, you look like a Pete.
Yeah.
And then when Otway comes over, he puts his hand out and he says, John. And Diaz laughs because it's almost like they had this contentious relationship. And then it's just like, well, no, it's no surprise that you're a John, because you're the same as me. Maybe in different ways, you're as pig-headed as I am. And it just is fitting that we are the same name.
Yeah. He's like, of course you're a John.
Yeah. It's a fucking good moment.
It is. Yeah.
And they leave him. They just say, okay, well, this is your wish. We're going to go. So they move on. And he just sits there. I like the fact that they don't do two things in this movie. They don't show him getting killed by the wolves, and they don't get 10 feet down the road and you hear him dying.
Right.
You just get to hope that he dies, or in some alternate universe, maybe he fucking survives. Who knows?
Do you own this movie?
Yes.
Last time I watched it, I didn't go back, but I felt like I heard a growl as they were walking away.
Oh, honestly, if that did happen, then I missed it. And so if I'm wrong about this, if you guys listening watched this recently, then I'm sad that they did that, because I would have rather them not have done that.
Yeah, just a little bit of hope left.
Yeah, just a little bit of hope, or a little bit of, in the end, and we're getting to the end. This is kind of a movie that doesn't have a lot of hope for its characters, right? It doesn't end up well, pretty much. So it would be nice to be able to at least take one of them and go, all right, well, he's the Mr. Pink of this movie. We don't know what happens to him. You hear Mr. Pink getting shot at, but maybe he survived. You don't know.
Exactly.
So, okay. So they move forward, and they end up,
they get chased by some more wolves.
Yes. They get chased by the wolves. This is another great scene where it's them walking, and, they kind of just look back, and you see the wolves on their fucking ass, and they run, and they both end up at different points falling into the river.
Yeah, I think so. Pete falls in because he, I don't know, he was just running, and he fell into this area of snow that brought him down into the river.
Right.
So he's now being washed down by the river, and Otway's still running from the wolves, which, by the way, you never see them again after the very first thing. It's like they're not being chased anymore, but they're still running. But he decides that he has to jump in the river because he sees that Pete is getting taken away by the river.
Right.
So Otway literally jumps in the river himself.
I turned to Heather and I said, as if all of this shit they're dealing with isn't bad enough, now they're going to be wet.
I see water, yeah.
Even if you got out of the water, now you're just soaked in this environment. You're dead again. There's so many things that want to kill you. As they're going down this little river rapid, Henrik, right?
Pete, Henrik. Yep.
Pete ends up slipping under this log that's kind of above the water. And when he's kind of in the water, but towards the top, he ends up slipping under it. And when he slips under it, his foot gets stuck between two rocks. Now, John Otway does not see the foot being stuck in the rocks. So he is trying to save Pete from drowning by pulling him up, by pulling the log up, by grabbing him by the arms and pulling him up. And it's a frustrating scene because we see Pete drowning, which is fucking awful. but Otway can get his face to like right.
Yeah, his face is like maybe 6 inches under the water.
6 inches under the water. He cannot get him any higher up. And as Otway is just wrestling and trying, we get a couple shots of the foot stuck between the rocks.
Yeah, he gives him some mouth to mouth, but
it doesn't work. Yeah. He ends up dying, and Otway just kind of lets him go and crawls out of the river and crawls into this kind of like clearing area, which he doesn't notice it, but as a viewer, I noticed it. There's like bones everywhere. There's like rib cages.
Bones, rib cages everywhere.
Yeah.
Some antlers and stuff.
Climbs into the middle of this and he takes off his jacket. He basically gets down to his like kind of thermals on the top, and he goes through and he pulls out his note and he's looking at his note, and then he has a flashback to laying in bed with his wife, and this is the first time, we see him laying in bed with her, and then we hear her tell him again to not be afraid, but then we kind of back off and we see an IV drip, and we realize that she is clearly, probably fighting cancer or something in a hospital bed, and he's laying with her. He looks at his little note again, and it's wet and it's smearing, and then he takes all of the wallets out of the bag that they had, and he forms them into like a cross.
Right. He looks at all the pictures of all the men and their kids and all that.
Yeah, it goes through their personal effects and just like, honoring them all. And we get a picture of Heinrich with his little kid, and we get a picture of Diaz and all these people. And then he just kind of like is sitting there. And what's next, Manster?
Next, you start seeing, he realizes at this point that he's in the den.
Yeah.
And there's wolves flanking him on all sides, and they're coming closer. And then you look up straight in front of him up the hill. There's the alpha up there. And then, I don't know, the alpha makes some sort of gesture. All the other wolves back off. And it's like, it's just me and this dude here.
That's it. This midnight black magic evil motherfucker wants to fight. I'll fight him. So Otway gets up and he takes the knife he had and he takes some duct tape or, electrical tape.
Yeah, he's good. Good thing he's got that electrical tape readily available.
He wraps the electrical tape and the knife around one hand, and then he goes through the bag, and there's some nip bottles in there, and he puts Wolverine style. He puts like 3 nippers between his fingers. He wraps them all in with the electrical tape, and then smashes them on a rock. So he's ready to fucking punch a wolf with some glass bottles and stab it. And then it's on. It's the alpha male, and then we just get this shot of Liam Neeson and his face and his eyes, and it's kind of closing in.
Oh, yeah, the way it was closing in, and he's got those deep set eyes. And, so they were giving him a wolfish look, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. And what's going to happen, but we don't see it happen.
We don't see it. We just see that one moment of movement and noise, and that's over.
The movie ends right then and there. Now, people who saw this movie back in 2012 were pissed off because apparently in the trailers, there were scenes of a fight between Liam Neeson and a wolf, but Joe Carnahan, the writer and director, had said that he knew that you didn't have to see the wolf fight because that's not what this movie was. This movie wasn't like a culmination to a fight between a man and a wolf. This was a man on a journey, and this is the end of his journey one way or the other. Now, if you're a fan of Marvel movies and you're willing to stick through some credits, if you stick all the way through the credits, there is a extremely short one more scene at the very end. Manster, what happens at the very, very end?
At the very, very end, you see the alpha wolf laying down, and then you see Liam Neeson's hairline and head behind the alpha wolf, but they're both just laying down with their fates are just unclear. You don't know.
It's like they fought each other to some uncertain result, and the wolf is laying, and he's using the wolf as a pillow because they're literally dying or as beat as possible. And
so my take is they're both going to recover, and they're going to be best buds.
I would see the Gray 2, best friends. I would check that out. I would check that out. I think that would be pretty good. Manster, let's talk about the box office.
Show me the money.
Looking good, but I think I'm taking too long.
Back to the spot for a Glock. I took a loss over floss, but still got a knock. Money!
So the budget for this was $25 million. In the opening weekend in the U.S., it made 19.7. Domestically for the year, 51.8, and worldwide, 79.8. So not too bad. Made its money and tripled it pretty much.
Yep.
And for that weekend, I'll give you the top 5. Man on a Ledge, number 5. Red Tails, number 4. One for the Money, number 3. Underworld Awakening, number 2 at 12.3 million. And The Gray, number 1 that weekend,
Nice.
19.6. And on the year, The Gray came in number 66 in the U.S. anyway. Number 5 was, I think we've talked about this before, The Hobbit and Unexpected Trilogy.
Yes, yeah, nobody wanted that.
Skyfall at number 4, Hunger Games at 3, number 2, Dark Knight Rises, and number 1, The Avengers.
Let's rate this fucking thing.
I am ready to fucking party.
I guess we're gonna party.
Fuck yeah!
All right, 0 to 5, 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the absolute best thing ever, quarter and half scale optional. I'll go first. I like this movie an awful lot. I like Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson had a period after Taken where he just started doing a lot of kind of forgettable action movies, but he had a couple gems in there, and I think Joe Carnahan handed him The A-Team, which I think is a good movie in a different sense. It's a much more, I guess, action comedy type thing.
Yeah, more fun.
More fun. It's a fun movie. This is not a fun movie in any way, shape, or form, but this is a really well-made movie with good performances, with a good, it's doesn't overstay its welcome, good length, and it's what's the word I'm looking for? Other than it being, I guess, dour and not having, a happy ending, which, you kind of almost wish you could see, at least Liam Neeson's character survive this whole thing. But also, he's a broken man and maybe, his fate was predetermined. I don't know. But it makes you think. And it's kind of a real dude movie. It's a movie that isn't afraid to flesh out all the characters in the movie, right? Like so many times you'd have this movie where it'd be Liam Neeson as the star and maybe Frank Grillo's the second guy. And then all the rest of the guys are just nameless and faceless.
Right. None of the others would matter.
And they do matter. They make it a point to, at the very least, give all of them a personality or a little bit of backstory so that you care. You care. When Pete dies, I felt really sad. Yep. Besides the fact that it was a harrowing death scene, Roger Ebert said that this movie affected him so much that it's the only time he ever saw a movie, being The Gray, then had to go to another screening. And he said after a half hour of the second movie, he had to leave because he couldn't stop thinking about The Gray. The only time in his career he ever let a movie affect him watching another movie was this movie.
Yeah, I get it.
I get it too. I think it's, there's a lot of good themes in here. There's a lot of good redemptive character stuff, like the Diaz character. There are so many guys out there that are the tough guy but deep down they're scared, or deep down they're hurt by somebody, or deep down. And, when's a better time than to come to your senses or to accept things than in a life or death situation? I think it's acted really well.
Yeah. Face to face with a wild wolf. Yeah. That's a good time.
Yeah. I think it's acted really well. I think they do a lot of really, like I said before, the wolf attack scenes are spaced out well enough that it's not the whole movie. The whole movie isn't, just a wolf movie. It's a survival movie that happens to have a wolf element to it. It's a really good movie. I really enjoyed watching this again. I had not seen this in several years. I had bought it on Blu-ray a while ago because I knew I wanted to rewatch it, and we ended up choosing to do it on here. I'm going to give it a 4.25. I think it's a 4.25. I think this is a really well-made movie, and I think it's one that if you're not familiar with it and you're hearing this episode, I think you should go check it out for sure. Manster, what do you got?
All right. Yeah, 4.25 wolf heads. One thing I wanted to mention, also the PETA and the, those activist groups were not very happy with this movie. They had heard that they had bought 4 wolf carcasses, 2 for props and 2 for the cast to eat, which is really just a movie thing. It's not a cast thing. But they just weren't happy with the way that the gray wolves were presented. Hey, they're the villains, but anyway.
Yeah, wolves should try to eat less people, and then we won't worry about them.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, no, this movie definitely gives you that feeling, like you said, with Roger Ebert, for sure. I saw it once. I don't remember how long ago. I didn't see it when it came out, but I saw it on DVD at some point later, and I loved it. I loved it way back then. I was looking forward when you said it was going to be on Frigid February. I was very happy to see that. And I do like, some of my notes are saying the same thing. We see the men as individuals. They're not just a group of victims that we really don't care about. The movie makes a point of giving each one of these guys a personality.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. And yeah, it progresses, man. It's like relentless. It just keeps moving on. There's some points of introspection and maybe a little bit of philosophical talk and a little bit of those visions, but I think it balances, the coldness and the wolf chases and all that action. Like, it's just very brutal. This film is very brutal, and it's balanced really well. And I like that. It's wolf against man. Patience and weapons and all this stuff. It's really cool. And it does build, like you said, it's dreadful. Like, everything in the movie is, you realize, like, going through the movie, not even halfway through, like, everyone's dying, but you still think, all right, this is a Liam Neeson movie. He's going to come out victorious at the end and the men are going to win. And then as it gets towards the end, you're like, wait a minute, I don't think that's really going to happen now. I really don't.
Yeah.
And that's great. It's kind of like a good twist. Of course, we all want that happy ending, but you don't always get it. And I do think the ending that we did get was fine. It was perfect for this movie. The character, like you said, he's a very complex individual, kind of haunted by his past, and he's on a journey. That's what this whole movie is, really. It's his journey.
Once more into the fray, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It matches that poem perfectly. So good job. Great acting by everybody. And the weather, I just have to say, the weather was so believable.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was all like real wind and real weather that they were seeing. Like, I know some of the scenes with the wolves, they were flakes. It wasn't real snow. But when they were like going through the snow knee deep, that felt really real to me.
Yeah.
And I love this movie too, and I agree. 4.25.
Ooh, buddy.
Hits out of 5. Yep.
Perfect. 4.25 times 2, 8.5. Yeah, baby. All right. So check The Gray out if you have not. It is definitely recommended by us here at the Pint. Manster, tell everybody where they could find us.
On Facebook. No, not on Facebook. On YouTube.
Oh.
Right. I think we're still a pop culture podcast. Jesus. On Instagram, it's
Instagram
at the Pint Pop. And on Patreon, you'd be an insider at www.patreon.com/thepint. Get yourself one of those tiers. We love you. We want you to get the good stuff too.
Yep.
The more good stuff, not just the good stuff.
The more good stuff. The Manster had a injection of horse ketamine earlier today to help his neck, so he's high.
I'm just about out of it.
High as a kite. All right. Don't forget, next week we're gonna finish Frigid February off with one of the Manster's favorite movies of all time. We're not even gonna lie about that. We're not gonna make you wait until he gives it a 5 next week. We'll just tell you, but you want to come back and listen to us talk about it. The Shining. That's right, from 1980, Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of Stephen King's book. We'll be talking about that. And don't forget to go to harpoonholly.com. Check out that website if you want to order anything, coffees, teas, mugs, shirts, all that good stuff. Go to the bottom when you are ready to check out. Go to that little box that says coupon code and type in PINT20 to get 20% off a single order this month during Frigid February. Till next time.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!